Your shadow is a confirmation that light has traveled nearly 93 million miles unobstructed, only to be halted by you. Hello, and here are some crazy shower thoughts for you that will blow your mind to whatever the fuck is the most distant object in this universe that your and my shriveled little puny brains can imagine. Isn't it fascinating to consider that if someone were to tell you to count every number in existence, you would never even reach the number 1? And think about this. It's entirely possible to go through your entire life without ever needing to jump. Now ponder the fact that everything under your skin is wet all the time. Time flies so fast that we are now closer to the year 2070 than 1970. Isn't it curious to think that every pizza could become a mushroom pizza if you just wait long enough? The word queue is ironic. Just a queue with silent letters waiting in line. That's scary as shit. Have you ever thought about how any stairway could be a stairway to heaven if you're clumsy enough? And consider this. Bots are probably still spamming your very first email address. It's a sign of changing times that Generation X and Millennials will likely be the first generations to tell their kids about how much easier life was when they were young. Isn't it strange how walking on a treadmill for an hour is normal, but walking around your dining room table for the same amount of time is considered odd? Reflect on the fact that only the poorest rich people fly in first class, while the wealthiest fly in private jets. As we age, the effectiveness of a life sentence in prison diminishes. Have you ever wondered why air starts free, but becomes more expensive the tighter you pack it? And why, oh why, is Donkey Kong called Donkey Kong if he's actually a monkey? It's intriguing to think that everything you've ever lost is still out there somewhere. The person who decided where each key goes on a keyboard has influenced you more than you can imagine. Isn't it funny how a joke someone else made in your dream is actually a product of your own sense of humor? Remember when you were in grade school and everyone a grade above you seemed so much older, but now everyone looks like kids? It's a bit sad to think that one day you'll have your last bite of pizza. The Titanic sinking being an act of divine intervention, according to the crawfish in the kitchen, is a peculiar thought. And isn't it strange how we look in the mirror to see what we look like, yet mirrors don't actually show us the way others see us? Phone really should have an angry hang-up feature to mimic slamming the phone down, don't you think? Painkiller medicine is like the mute notifications option for your body. It's ironic how people want honesty, but can't handle it when it's given. Have you ever noticed the connection between Dairy Queen and Burger King? Imagine the energy we could save if every website defaulted to dark mode. Humans, the ultimate invasive species, are part of a world where an anomaly exists. If all men were removed from the earth except for one, you would still not get any bitches. Scrabble could have been named Textiles, and getting an even amount of urinals seems like a waste. Tobacco companies kill their best customers, while condom companies kill their future ones. Cemeteries would be more interesting if they included the cause of death on headstones. Creativity often thrives when there isn't complete freedom. In movies, the bigger a man is, the less likely he is to win a fight. If you are 1 in a million, there are 7,000 people just like you. Queen Elizabeth's birth was probably announced via a telegram, and her death via a tweet. You might have walked past a missing child or a murderer without knowing. You're the only one who remembers your embarrassing experiences so vividly because everyone else has their own to remember. Cats following a routine means if they cuddle you one night, they probably do it every night. You spend your whole life gathering people for your funeral. Someone's mom probably used you as a role model for her kids. Isn't it strange how house pets who have never been outside might think summers are cold and winters are warm due to AC and heating? The man bun is like the mullet of our generation. It's rare to see forks as anything other than plastic nowadays. If you get out of the shower clean, why does your towel get dirty? When a wristwatch battery dies, it essentially becomes a bracelet. If cats had wings, they'd probably still just lay there. Your brain operates on autopilot until you realize it's on autopilot. Tennis balls are likely used more for dogs to play with than for actual tennis matches. All online art is technically pixel art. Being bored in your own house is somehow better than being bored at someone else's house. We often focus on our worst-looking feature, while others notice our best-looking feature more. A burger doesn't have a front or a back until you take a bite out of it. Every time you clean a vacuum cleaner, you become a vacuum cleaner. The more you enjoy life, the shorter it feels. People aren't afraid to fly, they're afraid to land. Most humans in the Stone Age didn't live long enough to see someone old enough to have wrinkles. Spider-Man can only web swing in cities with skyscrapers. Maybe we would have actual magic nowadays if we hadn't burned all those witches back in the day. The only thing that water bottle companies produce is plastic. Isn't it crazy to think about how reality TV is the most inaccurate TV genre? Hearing your favorite song on the radio hits differently than when it's on your phone. If phones warned about damage to headphones instead of hearing, more people would probably keep their volume lower. Arcades are essentially a way for children to gamble legally. If a cyclops closes its eye, is it winking or just blinking? Did time begin before or after the creation of the universe? Cringing at your past self is proof of character development. If aliens are watching old broadcasts of Earth, they might think black and white was a stage in our planet's development. In 100 years, vintage 2020s will be a theme for parties. If you could see air, the world would look foggy. If water is tasteless, why does it taste bad when it comes out of the nose? We're all time travelers, moving at the speed of 1 second per second. If you could teleport, you'd never know if you were truly moving or just being replaced by an exact copy of yourself. Isn't that a mind bender? The phrase, "don't judge a book by its cover," is rarely applied to actual books, which is quite ironic when you think about it. You're never bored when you're busy winning arguments in your head, a victory that's always sweet. If trees could scream, would we still cut them down, or would we just find it annoying? That's a disturbing thought. The smartest character in a book can only be as smart as the author, but never smarter. Every hollow chocolate bunny is carrying a pocket of air from somewhere else in the world, a little piece of its origin. If you could see your own face without a mirror or camera, it might look stranger than you think. The first person to drink milk from a cow was either very brave or very weird, or maybe just really thirsty. People go years without jumping, and they don't even realize it. How strange is that? If you've ever saved a file as final, you probably have a final and a final too. Your reflection is always younger than you, even if it's just by a fraction of a second. When you say forward or backward, your lips move in those directions, a curious alignment of language and motion. If you could freeze time, you'd be blind because light wouldn't move to your eyes. The North Pole is a planet away from the South Pole, a vast distance indeed. If you could switch off your emotions, you might forget to turn them back on. If you could remember every dream, your reality might become less interesting. The more tattoos you get, the less tasty and appealing you become to cannibals. A bizarre but somewhat comforting thought. If you're bad at lying, it's actually a sign you're good at being honest. Every year, there's a silent anniversary of the day you'll eventually die, and you have no idea when it is. If ghosts can walk through walls, they'd probably fall through floors too. Your first birthday is actually your second birthday. If history is written by the victors, then every library is a trophy case. The word bed actually looks like a bed. Mirrors don't work in the dark. Do not touch would probably be a really unsettling thing to read in Braille. Does a straw have 1 or 2 holes? A question that's surprisingly hard to answer. Anything can be used as a currency if enough people agree on it. Your smartphone knows more about your daily routine than your family does. In a world full of different languages, laughter is a universal sound. If you could fast forward life, you'd probably miss some of the best parts without realizing it. Winter is the only season you experience twice a year. Every puzzle you've ever solved started as just a picture someone decided to cut up. The first person to hear an echo might have thought they were being followed. Actually, knowing the future causes severe depression, a heavy burden indeed. Somebody somewhere has tried eating pizza with chopsticks. Leaving work 15 minutes early feels so much better than getting to work 15 minutes later. You can only buy used mirrors. You don't notice how often you swallow until you get a sore throat. Your age is just the number of times you've orbited the sun. Asking someone to help you bury a body greatly increases the likelihood that you'll have to bury a second body. It's your parents' job to raise you. Your adult relationship with them is their performance review. A lung transplant is a filter change for your body. Mom, mama, mother, all sound pretty similar, but dad, papa, and father are all completely different. For a large part of the population, breakfast ends at 10:30 a.m. because McDonald's said so. When you wear comfortable clothes, you don't feel them, but you always feel uncomfortable clothing. Crispy bacon is technically a kind of animal cracker. History classes are only going to get longer and harder as time goes on. Taking candy from a baby is actually a good thing. Do twins realize that one of them was unplanned? Many tattoos and surgeries have been ruined by earthquakes. Wild animals can develop mental illnesses too, but we just assume they are being wild. Girlfriends are temporary, ex-girlfriends are forever. If animals could talk, zoos would be like live podcasts. And which animal would you like to listen to the most? Looking back on it, does anyone actually remember the last few seconds before you fall asleep? And while we're at it, can you remember just one single shower thought that won't let you sleep at night? Let me know in the comments. You can't sleep now anyway.